Welcome, everyone, to the Bamboo Garden Wellness Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Dexter. I'd like to welcome our guest, Suchita Jhawar, and she is an artist, and we are so excited to have you here today, Suchita.
I'm excited too. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So Suchita and I met very serendipity. I was thinking to myself that, we'd really love to find an artist who would be able to fill our wellness center with beautiful art. I have no idea where to go or who to talk to. And about a week or two or three after that, I was sitting at the front desk one day talking to our office manager, and Suchita walked in and she introduced herself and said that she was an artist and that she was looking for a place to hang her art. And I said, oh, I believe I said something like, I've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
So now Suchita hangs her beautiful art here in the Wellness Center, and she hosts several interesting events, including some paint and sips, which are lots of fun. I participated in a few of those and had a wonderful time. And so Suchita, please tell us more about yourself. Tell us about how you became an artist and about your art.
Oh, well, I was born an artist. I always wanted to do art. I'm from India and I was born and raised there. Art was always my favorite subject, but I believe my new birth as an artist happened in 2020. And it all started with a poem that I wrote. We were all going through stuff during the lockdown. And even though I'd dabbled in art here and there, I never really fully embraced myself as who I wanted to be. And so I wrote this poem called Lockdown Lemons, and then I made a painting for that poem, and I just launched these art scarves with my artwork on there, and it's so serendipitous again that I'm wearing this scarf today and talking about it. So that's how I started my journey as an artist, and then just started reaching out and gaining the confidence, being able to face rejection and putting my art out there for people to see, and then slowly started doing workshops and
Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
And then teaching.
Yes.
So I'm just doing all that now.
Yes, absolutely. And Suchita came in today with some beautiful examples of her art scarves. And so I thought I would share these with our audience here. So this one, I said her looked like a spring day. And this one, I thought was rather pretty. I said it looked like chrysanthemums met the sun. And this one looks like kind of a beautiful abstract painting.
I call it Phoenix.
Oh, I love it. Yes. So by the way, we have her art available for sale, her paintings, her scarves, her tote bags, and cards available for sale here in the Wellness Center. And I believe they're also for sale on your website, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So art can be very therapeutic. And today, I understand, is a special day.
Yes, it is Inspire Your Heart with Art Day.
I love that. Yes. So, so many people say things like, I can't be an artist. I'm terrible. So what would you say to them?
We're all artists in some way or the other.
Yes.
Whenever I teach my paint and sips, there's many people that say, we've never painted before. And I said, have you painted your nails? And they're like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Have you painted a patch on the wall? And really, anything that you do creatively is being an artist. I mean, of course, you can be a musician or a dancer, but even in our everyday lives, we are all artists.
Absolutely. Yes. I would even say cooking is a form of art.
Yes. And very therapeutic as well.
Right. So. Right. And art can be fun. I remember my mom showed me a painting that she had saved that I had made from the first day of kindergarten. Well, little kids that they're given the big easels and the big paintbrushes. And it just looked like I had just kind of gone like this and made a few shapes. But, my mother was pleased, of course, and I had fun. I remember thinking that was so fun to just play with the paint.
Right. So that's what art should do. You just have to be thinking out of the box and having fun.
Yes, indeed. So yes, even if it looks like a kindergartner did it.
I mean, I wish I could paint like a kindergartner, because I mean, when you look at abstract art, it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like for them to just go back to that child within
Yes.
and be able to paint like that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and maybe even doing some tactile art. I remember in preschool loving to doing finger paint.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, I think there's a lot to be said about connecting with your inner child.
It is. It is. So, yeah.
Yeah. And and it may not be that, okay, I'm going to hang all of this art in my house, but I think that there's something to be said for the value of I created something, whether it ends up in a drawer or not.
And that's how when I started, I felt I have to be worthy as an artist. It has to sell. It has to be up somewhere. And yeah, it's fun to go out there. And I've faced rejection. I've been to like so many coffee shops and places like, hey, do you want to hang my art here? And some of them have said no, and it's okay. And it's kind of like coming to the confidence that I can just create art, and it's just to release something. It doesn't have to sell. It doesn't have to be good enough to hang on a wall.
Right.
And it's okay to just have it, just do it for yourself, art for art's sake.
Right, right. And I think that that's maybe where the therapy piece comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
That there's so much in the human psyche that I think would like to be expressed. And for some people, yes, they're going to express it in words, but for a lot of people, that doesn't necessarily feel appropriate. So would you like to say more about that?
Yeah. So therapeutically, just for me, art has been a way of releasing emotions. And many people say when you're happy, go paint. When you're sad, go paint. But I've realized, like, when there is such a thing as artist's block or writer's block, so it's very hard to put something down when you're not feeling it, when you're not feeling good. But I've worked through it, where again it's coming to the point where it's, even if it's not good enough, and you've just put it on the canvas, and it doesn't have to be something that looks beautiful enough to be put up. It's just what you put on there. And that's where the therapeutic benefits of art come in. And then it just flows. And I've done, as you know, we've done some art and mindfulness and art and inner child workshops here at Bamboo Garden, and I think they've really helped the people, because I've heard such good feedback where they didn't know how to paint, and there was a couple of there was one person who wanted it to be so perfect, and she was so tense in the beginning, and then she asked me, can I use my fingers to paint? And I was like, go for it. Like, that's beautiful, because she had stopped thinking that this is how she needs to be and this is how her work needs to be. And then she was totally immersed in it.
Right. And I bet she walked away feeling that she maybe had some more insight into her own inner being.
Yes, I'm sure she did.
Yeah. Well, I can speak to that the classes that I've taken from you, particularly, I'm thinking back to the one of, was it called the neuro lines?
Yes.
Yeah. That, that felt very therapeutic to just imagine what a piece of neurology might look like, and then to draw it on the page. Now, obviously, there's no way of knowing, unless I go and get an MRI or something like that. But it didn't matter, because it felt like it was an artistic expression of something that was going on inside, that was unseen, that now could be discovered through my hand.
And everybody's was so different. And all the colors that, I think they all kind of like connected what color resonated with you at that time. Was what you subconsciously put down in your artwork.
Right, absolutely. And I noticed that I chose very bright primary colors, think like of jewel tones, a lot of ruby red and emerald green. And other people chose these very muted tones, like like the palest lavender and the palest yellow.
Yes. And then we had my son, who had like so many different amazing colors, and his was so zigzaggy.
It was
very different.
Yes. Yes. So for the person who says, something like, well, I can't do art, what would you say?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I also teach art to children, primarily first through fifth graders. And that's the first thing that I always reiterate in class before we begin, that there's no right or wrong way to do art. And draw to express yourself. Like everybody can do art, and they come up with the most. I mean, I would say their work is beautiful.
Right.
So I think as we grow older, we have so many things that society or life puts, like you can do this and you can't do this, and the whole thing that it has to be perfect. Everything, it's okay to be imperfect. And
Right.
personally, I've gone through that journey, and where I'm coming to terms like it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I don't have to be perfect.
Right. Right.
So everybody can do art.
Right. And perhaps there's something to be said about being perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
Again, I mean, if the purpose of art is to do something that makes, you feel as if you've expressed something or explored something, then who cares what it looks like?
Right, right.
Yeah. So yes, of course, there is, that style of art that is, meant to be, aesthetically beautiful. But it also seems to me that sometimes you might find it just by experimenting.
Yeah.
How about you? I mean, is that something that's been part of
I'm
your journey?
still, I mean, so over the years, when I would try to paint, I think I was subconsciously also in my art, as I did with other aspects in my life, tried to be perfect, the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect whatever. Um, and whenever I painted, it had to be so perfect and so realistic that I never felt it was good enough, and I never showed it to anybody, and never really tried unless it was joyful. And when I wanted to do it, like for example, I painted a mural when my son was born, my first baby, and I did a whole wall of Winnie the Pooh, and I didn't care. At that time it was just because I wanted to do it.
Right.
But so much of my other art was, well, it's not perfect. And now I'm exploring abstract, charcoals, I mean, everything.
That's great.
Things that I never did, mixed media, and learning that, like you said, there's something about the the perfectionism in being imperfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Suchita, you mentioned that you're from India.
Yes.
And so some of your art has been from Indian vignettes, if you will. And so I purchased one of Suchita's pieces.
Yeah.
And so why don't you talk about that particular tree?
The Tree of Hope. So, like I said, over the years, every time I traveled or artistically, if I was taking a picture, as a tourist, I would be like, oh, this would be an amazing painting.
Yeah.
And so we were traveling in this part of Rajasthan in India, which is northern India in the desert. And we were in this tribal village, and actually South India. And I saw this beautiful, like a tiny little village, a tree with just um, rags, so to say. I mean, they weren't like brightly colored, beautiful, they were just like garments. People had taken off their stuff and hung it. And it's almost like a wishing tree where they had hung kind of like tying ribbons, the tie a yellow ribbon, which is the theme which I find all over the world in all cultures. And that tree just looks so beautiful, just joyous. And I took a picture and I said, someday I'm going to paint it. Fast forward a few years on, when after 2020, when I just started painting and being able to just make a little space in my garage and call it my studio and just go out there and paint without feeling that I was like, I should be doing something else and not taking this time out to paint for myself. So I painted that tree, and that just symbolizes, it's called the Tree of Hope. And it doesn't care whether you're rich or poor, a man or a woman. Anybody can come tie a piece of fabric and make a wish.
Delightful.
And I think you were drawn to all the colors.
Yes.
So whenever I do paint vignettes from India, I think subconsciously, again, it's all the colors that are part of my culture flow through, and they are very bright and colorful.
Indeed. And there's another one that you painted from a mother
Yes.
putting the little slippers
Yeah.
on the child. So what inspired that one?
That one was also from one of my travels, and we were in this village in northern India, and we were having like a little home cooked meal in this tribal village. And they are actually the original tree huggers. So there's legend is that when some ruler was coming to annihilate the whole forest, the tribals hugged the trees, and obviously they, the the enemy couldn't just kill all these people, so the
Right.
trees were saved.
Right.
But we went there to have a meal, and all the little village boys were running around and kicking a soccer ball around. And this little girl came running to her mother and tugged, because we were guests, and we were going to be served a meal. But what touched my heart was that the girl took off her own slippers because the little girl had no shoes, and gave her shoes and told her to go play with the boys.
So cute.
And culturally, it just touched my heart, because daughters are always like, no, you should have been. I mean, it brought me like, what would my mom and grandmother have said? Like, no, you need to go and help us make the rotis, or uh, be a good little girl because we have visitors. And this mother just gave her daughter shoes to run in and wings to fly, so to speak.
It's delightful. So, what's your favorite? Well, favorite maybe is too big a term, but one of the paintings that maybe you're most proud of, or that you're most inspired by, that you've done.
So I want to say it's hard to pick, but
Right.
I think one of my most proud of paintings, which I really, really love, and which I've always said I'm never going to sell it. I do offer prints, by the way, and canvas prints and prints. It's a little 10 by 10 of a little girl, a little geisha. It's kind of like an abstract impressionistic style. And it is in oils, and it's of this little girl holding a parasol. And for me, she wants to grow up so fast that she's wearing her mom's kimono, and she has a mom's parasol. And I have like a little piece written about it as well. And to me, I call it Little Geisha, and I love it.
Oh, that's delightful.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to our listening audience about what you think they should know about art, or about expressive arts?
So art can heal, art can be very fulfilling. And my advice to you is always try it. Like, never be afraid, whether it's dancing or doodling or painting, or just even trying anything new, like a creative hobby. And the I think the biggest fear we have is that it's not going to be good enough, or I'm going to fail at it. And it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. And
Well, and what even is failure?
yeah,
You made something. Okay, maybe the vision didn't match what you had in your head, but okay, is that failure?
no,
Yeah.
no, but I think maybe it's just all these blocks that we
Right.
put
Right.
in our
Right.
minds.
Right. Right. I mean, I realize that usually is the artist dilemma. I've heard musicians talk about that, about how the music in their head doesn't necessarily match what's coming out of the
Right.
instrument, or even I've been a seamstress for a long time, and the garment doesn't come out the way that I envisioned.
Yeah.
But I learned something, with every attempt. Like years ago, I made a dress where the fabric I chose was actually quite wrong for the garment, and so what should have been a nice flowing draping dress now looked like a tent. It stood straight out.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, I've learned something. So that went in the trash, and I bought some new fabric and made a new dress.
Exactly, and that's it's only canvas, it's only
Right.
paint,
Right, or a little
you
bit of
can just
fabric.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Or paper.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's okay. Yes. So yeah, let those attempts just be part of the learning process.
exactly,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say also have fun with it.
all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what I also host, paint and sips, and I
Yes.
just love it when people say, oh, we thought this was going to be any old boring paint and sip, but this is fun.
Yeah.
And people who have been afraid to come out and paint, maybe that's one way to get into it and come away with 2 hours of relaxing and bringing something that you had fun with. Or then
Right.
there are people who just get so zen doing it, and
Right.
they connect and they find some peace. And always there's joy,
Yes. Indeed. Indeed.
joy and laughter.
Yes. Yes. And that to me seems like a wonderful thing to have.
Yes,
Yes.
we all need that.
Absolutely. Well, Suchita, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And to our audience, please check out our calendar. Suchita continues to do interesting events here at the Bamboo Garden Wellness Center, and we hope to see you at a live event sometime in the future. Thanks for joining us.